Is it true that Jungkook, the global BTS star who has always been the center of the world's attention, is now in serious danger? This question now haunts millions of ARMY around the globe after shocking reports from Los Angeles revealed a security disruption involving his personal manager. The uproar grew even louder when HYBE finally spoke up officially, confirming that the threat was real and had to be taken very seriously. But what really happened behind all of this? The chronology of the incident began when a mysterious message was sent to Jungkook's main manager, who was accompanying him during a series of private activities in Los Angeles. The message did not merely contain intimidating words, but also included details of travel schedules and specific locations known only to the internal team. That fact immediately made this case viewed as a serious threat to safety, not only for the manager but also for Jungkook himself. Internal reports leaked to foreign media revealed that the message was sent through an encrypted network and immediately triggered a swift response from HYBE's security team. Within hours, Jungkook's activity plans were changed, public schedules canceled, and security was tightened. This drastic step raised a big question. Who had such detailed access to the schedule of a world-class artist, and what was the real purpose? As the news began to spread, ARMY around the world immediately responded with panic. Their concern was not without reason. Jungkook has always been known to be very close to his management team, and any threat to them felt like it directly targeted him personally. HYBE, which usually remains very cautious in responding to rumors, could not remain silent this time. In an official statement released through Korean media and broadcast internationally, they confirmed that the threat was real and had been reported to the Los Angeles police. Furthermore, they stated that the safety of their artists is the top priority and the company would fully cooperate with authorities to ensure there would be no more security breaches. However, what stood out was the firm tone in HYBE's statement. They not only mentioned the existence of a threat, but also hinted at the possible involvement of certain parties with wider interests. This sparked new speculation that the case was not merely the act of an obsessive fan, but could be linked to business conflicts or even global competition in the entertainment industry. Several entertainment analysts in South Korea and the US pointed out that threats like this rarely appear in isolation. Usually there is a certain pattern or interest behind them. Considering Jungkook's position as the global face of BTS who is expanding into the international market, it is very possible that there are parties disturbed by the growing popularity and influence. On the other hand, ARMY highlighted how fragile protection for idols is, even in a developed country like the United States. Many demanded that the security system for global artists be updated, especially since this was not the first threat. Internal sources mentioned there were similar incidents in recent months, although they were successfully suppressed before reaching the public. The fact that this case finally leaked reinforced the belief that something much more serious is being played behind the scenes. What made the situation even more dramatic was the emergence of investigative reports from US media linking the threat to transnational criminal networks. Some of them had previously been mentioned in connection with extortion cases of international artists. Could Jungkook now be the next target in a far broader scenario? That question now hangs in the public's mind. Jungkook himself, although not yet making an official statement, was reportedly seen differently in several brief public appearances after the incident. Eyewitnesses who saw him at Los Angeles airport said his expression was far more serious than usual, barely smiling when greeting staff and fans. This triggered further concern about his mental and emotional condition. HYBE emphasized that they would continue to oversee this case until it was resolved, working with the cybercrime unit and local police. However, they also asked the public not to spread wild rumors that could complicate the situation. Unfortunately, the online world only grew louder with speculation, ranging from allegations of sabotage against Jungkook's music project in America to the involvement of major industry players who do not want to see him succeed further. Now, the biggest unanswered question is, was this threat a single incident, or part of a much more dangerous long-term plan? Are Jungkook and his team merely pawns in a larger game behind the global entertainment industry that has so far remained hidden from public eyes? ARMY can only hope that the truth will soon be revealed and that Jungkook can return to his activities safely. However, this incident has left a deep scar. For the first time, fans realize that their idol, who appears strong on stage, actually faces real risks behind the scenes. And that has created fear as well as empathy greater than ever before. HYBE has indeed spoken, but the final answer about who the culprit is, what their motive was, and how big the real threat is remains a mystery. The world now waits, still wondering, is Jungkook truly safe, or has he just stepped into a whirlpool of danger bigger than anyone imagined? After the uproar over reports of threats against Jungkook's manager in Los Angeles triggered massive panic among ARMY, now a new chapter has emerged that is no less shocking. Part of the reports turned out not to be entirely true. Amid the torrent of information, several independent media outlets and HYBE's internal sources clarified that some of the details circulating online had been exaggerated and some were entirely false. First, regarding the so-called direct threat allegedly aimed at Jungkook's manager. The latest report stated that the mysterious message widely reported was not an explicit threat, but rather an anonymous email containing a vague warning. The email did mention a certain location later linked to Jungkook's team movements, but there was no clear evidence that the sender intended to commit an act of violence. In other words, the threat was far more verbal intimidation than an actual physical danger. Second, regarding rumors that Jungkook's schedule was completely canceled due to the threat, HYBE stressed that changes to the Los Angeles schedule had actually been planned long before the email was received. The decision to postpone certain activities was more related to internal promotional matters, not solely because of security reasons. This fact also refuted claims that Jungkook was in panic and completely isolated. HYBE itself eventually issued a more detailed follow-up statement. They admitted that there was indeed suspicious communication directed at internal staff, but the company assessed that the incident did not put Jungkook at direct risk. We fully understand the concerns of ARMY worldwide. However, we want to stress that the safety of our artists remains fully under control. There is no real threat endangering their activities, the official statement read. This clarification was important, as in recent days social media had been full of wild speculation. Some claimed Jungkook was the target of an international criminal network, while others accused this of being part of sabotage within the global entertainment industry. All of these narratives did sound dramatic, but many of them were not supported by concrete evidence. Some media analysts even described what happened as an information echo chamber, where a small rumor is amplified by social media until it appears as a frightening truth. Furthermore, the preliminary investigation by the Los Angeles Police Department found that the address of the anonymous email sender was linked to an account that had previously sent similar messages to several other K-pop artists when they held events in the United States. The pattern suggested that this case was most likely the work of an individual or a small group seeking attention, not a large operation with structured criminal motives. Thus, fears that Jungkook was becoming a pawn in a global business war seemed unfounded. However, the domino effect of the initial news had already spread widely. ARMY, who are extremely protective of their idol, reacted strongly, while international media had already picked up the story as a dramatic headline. Ultimately, the situation showed how an issue can turn into global panic simply because of a lack of initial verification. What is also interesting to note is how HYBE chose their communication strategy. Instead of closing off information as they usually do, this time they quickly issued an official clarification. Many observers viewed this as a wise step, considering the company's reputation had faltered in some previous cases when it was deemed slow to respond to rumors. By revealing the fact that there was indeed an incident, but not a serious threat, HYBE managed to calm panic while maintaining public trust. Yet another question arose. Why did the rumors grow so quickly? The answer lies in the massive nature of BTS's global fandom. With tens of millions of active fans worldwide, every fragment of information about BTS members can spread within minutes. If the information contains elements of threat or danger, emotional responses are inevitable. That is exactly what happened in this case. A suspicious email turned into a deadly threat in the narrative of social media. The fact that Jungkook continued to be seen in several private activities in Los Angeles after the issue surfaced also reinforced the statement that the situation was not as bad as portrayed. Some ARMY who happened to see him from a distance said Jungkook did look more serious, but did not show extreme signs of fear. This aligned with HYBE's claim that the idol continued his normal activities with standard security. In the end, the story of the threat against Jungkook in Los Angeles became a real example of how media and the public can be trapped in half-truth information. That there was an anonymous email, that was fact. That HYBE tightened security, that was also true. But that Jungkook was truly in great danger, that turned out to be not in line with reality. This case also opened a wider discussion on how the global entertainment industry should balance between transparency of information and the protection of artists. On one hand, fans deserve to know the latest news, so they are not consumed by anxiety. But on the other hand, excessive transparency without quick clarification can trigger panic that ultimately harms everyone. Now, HYBE has promised to improve their communication standards so that similar misunderstandings will not occur in the future. They reaffirmed once again that the safety of Jungkook and all BTS members remains under full supervision. For ARMY, the statement surely brought relief, even though the anxiety had not completely faded. One thing is clear. The news about threats to Jungkook in Los Angeles was not entirely true as previously reported. Some facts have been confirmed, while others were just exaggerated rumors. What remains is an important lesson that in the digital era, false and half-true news can easily dominate public opinion, even for a figure as huge as Jungkook. And now, the world can breathe a little easier. Jungkook is not in real danger. He is still safe, still working, and still under the protection of professional teams ready to safeguard him whenever needed.